All right, let's dive into some of the most enduring stories ever told. I'm talking about the parables of Jesus. But we're not going to look at them through a theological lens. Nope. Instead, we're going to break them down for what they are: absolute masterclasses in narrative design and storytelling.
You know, we hear a lot about story formulas, right? The hero's journey, the three-act structure, all that stuff. But here's the thing. The best stories, the ones that really stick with you, they don't come from some cookie-cutter blueprint. Trying to follow a rigid formula, well, it can create a product, sure, but not always a story with a real soul.
So, if it's not a formula, then what is it? What's the secret sauce that makes a simple little story so powerful it can echo across millennia? That is the mystery we are going to unravel today, and we're going to use the parables as our guide.
And they are the perfect case study for this. I mean, think about it. These simple stories with these really deep truths, they weren't just a side note in Jesus' teachings. The Gospels show that parables made up roughly 1/3 of his entire recorded ministry. So yeah, their importance, you really can't overstate it. Okay, let's get into it. The secret to their incredible longevity isn't some rigid, complicated formula. It's a powerful, super flexible principle that controls the whole rhythm of the narrative. It all comes down to one thing: pacing. Now, when I say pacing, you might be thinking of, mixing fast action scenes with slow, dramatic ones. And that's part of it, sure, but that's more about style. True pacing is the fundamental rhythm of the plot itself. It's like the choreography that moves the story forward in a way that just feels right and keeps you totally hooked. And here it is. This is the core idea. The most effective, the most memorable stories, they aren't built on one single giant arc. Instead, they're built from a chain of smaller, self-contained stories. We're going to call them mini-arcs. And every single one of these little mini-arcs has its own satisfying structure. It's so simple. You have a beginning, the setup, which kind of poses a little question. Then you have the climax, that peak moment of tension. And finally, the end, the resolution or the outcome. This is the repeating rhythm that an audience feels, a lot of times without even knowing it's happening.
So, theory is great, but let's see this principle in action, right? We're going to take this very modern storytelling idea and apply it to our ancient examples. You're going to see how perfectly it fits.
Let's start with a classic, the parable of the sower. The beginning is super simple. A farmer goes out to sow his seed, but it falls on 4 different kinds of soil. Right away, this sets up 4 potential outcomes, 4 tiny little stories that are about to unfold. And here, you can see the climax and the end for each one of those mini arcs. For each type of soil, there's a quick, tense question: is the seed going to grow? And that's followed by a really clear resolution. Each one is a self-contained story that builds on the last one, and altogether, they drive home the parable's deeper meaning. It's brilliant.
And what's so cool is how flexible this principle is. Take the parable of the bags of gold from Matthew and compare it to the parable of the 10 minas from Luke. The details are different, right? The number of servants, how much money they get, but the underlying structure, it's identical. Each servant's story is a mini arc with a beginning, a climax, and an end, and they all prove the same core lesson. So this is the crucial point. You can't just have these mini arcs floating around as random events. For the story to really have momentum, each arc has to flow logically into the next one. It's all about driving that larger narrative forward.
This is the secret to connecting your arcs. It's so simple, but so powerful. Every time a mini arc ends, you just have to ask, therefore, what happens next? Or, because this happened, what's the consequence? This simple logic creates a cause and effect chain that feels both totally inevitable and, at the same time, surprising. We can see this ancient rhythm just perfectly in the parable of the lost sheep. It's just one clean mini arc. The beginning: a shepherd has 100 sheep. The climax: he loses one and has to search for it. And the end: he finds it and he rejoices. Simple, powerful, and totally complete. Get this. That exact same rhythm is what powers modern blockbusters. I'm serious. In John Wick, the very first mini arc begins with him grieving his wife but getting a puppy. The climax is that violent home invasion where the puppy is killed. So what's the end of that arc? His grief turns to pure rage, which gives us the therefore that launches the entire rest of the movie, his quest for revenge. It's the same pattern.
So how does this all come together? What's the main takeaway from all this? Well, this isn't just some interesting little theory, it's a really practical tool for understanding why stories work, and for telling better ones yourself.
So why does this matter? Because once you see this structure, you really can't unsee it. Timeless stories work because they are built on this fundamental principle of connected mini arcs. This is the engine that drives the plot, builds tension, and keeps us invested, whether that story was told around a campfire 2,000 years ago or is streaming on your TV tonight.
So here's my challenge to you. The next time you watch a movie or read a book, look for the mini arcs. Look for that therefore logic that connects them all together. What ancient storytelling techniques do you see hiding in plain sight in the stories that you love? Let me know what you find. Thanks for listening.